Welcome to Fostering Parenthood.
Consent, porn,
normal relationship,
being a teen mom,
my first real adult love,
what it's like to be a foster child.
Every person I had an attachment with had left.
How trauma impacts your decision making.
I didn't feel very accepted and I didn't feel very safe.
And he said, you are lowering your own value by putting up with this.
And I wish someone was there to be there and tell me that it wasn't okay.
How do I honor providing that space for them?
It's about being in a place to be open to someone sharing with you their hurts.
Making sure that you guys are going into things open and supportive, or just even willing, right, to have these conversations.
I need you to find the strength to call someone and say, I'm drowning right now.
It's helpful to know yourself first as a caregiver.
But I just want caregivers to know that you're not alone.
You called me mom. I'm so excited to share this podcast episode with you. Joyce Ma, Fostering Unity's Organizational Development Coordinator, will be joining us today to talk to us about her experience as a caregiver in raising a neurodivergent transgender male youth and the complexities that she deals with every day, like her transgender male starting his menstrual cycle. How do you talk about those healthy, reproductive, sexual education topics with our youth? And what she found is that through doing that kind of tough conversation, that it actually built a foundation of trust that still is in place today. So join us and hear kind of her triumphs and her challenges as we build our tools as caregivers. Hi, Joyce. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This actually is near and dear to my heart. I have a grandson who is identified as neurodivergent. And when I first heard the term, honestly, didn't know what it was. I'm not much further from that now. And I know as a caregiver yourself, you have a child in your home that is neurodivergent. And so I'm really hoping that this podcast together, we can really define what that looks like, what it means, and perhaps even give caregivers a new word, a new term to use instead of the many terms that are used out there today. And Joyce, we're kind of cheating, right? Because we have known each other for quite a while. You work for Fostering Unity, and you are one of the dearest people in my life. So I would ask if you could please just share a little bit about yourself, your role with Fostering Unity, the child in your home, and then we'll kind of dig into this subject.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So yes, I'm Joyce Ma, and I first and foremost am a caregiver, and currently I'm a caregiver for a teenage boy. And I started working with Fostering Unity 3 years ago. So, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really wanted to be a part of an organization that can help. And every day I'm learning so much on how to be a better caregiver.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Now, the child in your home, it identifies as neurodivergent, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Can you talk to us about what that means? I mean, it's such a cool term. And when I heard it, I thought, wow, what is that? But what does it mean? What is neurodivergent?
Yes. So there's definitely a lot of different languages and words used for someone either on the autism spectrum or cognitive delay or anything like that. So I see it as a really good word to describe someone who, has a variation of cognitive functioning, because we're not always the same. Not everybody's the same. Our brains may be wired differently. So it's a really good word to describe someone without putting them down, without making them feel different or less. And I think that's important. And I have a little bit experience before my kiddos because my nephew is on the autism spectrum, and I've just learned so much from him. And yeah.
I think what's interesting too when we talk about this, and I think one of the reasons why I like the term is, even when you hear autism, of course it's autism spectrum, which obviously means there is a spectrum of in that terminology, but they're all so different. I mean,
Yes.
my grandson is also, as I said, neurodivergent, and if we put your nephew and your son that you're caring for now and my grandson in the same room, they would all be completely different and yet share a diagnosis. And I
Yes.
think that's the challenge as we look at caregivers trying to do this loving hard work in helping these kids to grow and be everything that they can be. How can we talk, even as a community, about strategies when a strategy for my grandson may not work for your nephew or for the child in your care right now? And so I think that beginning with terminology helps because we're not pigeonholing kids by just saying they're autistic, they have ADHD, whatever piece of that neurodivergent that they can hold on to, but that we just understand that the difference is in their cognition. It's
Right.
the level of that disability. And some folks, we want to call it an ability, right?
Right.
My grandson
Different
was over
ability.
yesterday, and I find so much joy in him. He has just the best view of the world. He sees
Yes.
everything in such a positive way. And although he has some significant behaviors that require ABA and a lot of those different strategies that we try to come up with, I just love so much that the world he lives in. His favorite thing in the whole world is to go to Lowe's or Sam's Club and Costco and look at the lights on the ceiling because he finds such joy in those lights. And
That's
he
so
just
beautiful.
stares up at them. Isn't it beautiful?
It's
Do
very
you
beautiful.
find that your child in your home or your nephew has something similar to that, kind of almost where they just can't get off of that subject,
Oh, yes. Yes. There's a few, but it's just they do find joy in things that sometimes we don't even think about. You're like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. And it's so wonderful to see it in their view, through their lens. And sometimes we do have to just slow down and see it their way. It's not about, oh, you do things my way. It's how can we do things together to grow. So I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Because otherwise we're fighting a fight that no one's winning, right? We only have losers in that. And I love what you said, that, how we can see the world through their lens and then capture that and learn to communicate so that they can understand it. And
Right.
one of the struggles that we have is as these kiddos get older, my grandson is 13, and but I'll say he's also 6 foot tall. He's just a huge dude, man. And when it comes to sexuality, all these kids grow, right? So even though they're looking at the world developmentally, maybe like a 6-year-old, their body is 13. Their body is changing, and they're going through an awful lot of kind of catch up time. I know that my grandson had gone to his mom and said, "Mom, I have grass." And she said, "What? Yeah, we do have grass, honey." And he said, "No, I have grass." and once she, kind of asked a few more questions, his pubic hair was growing. And the only thing that he could really, come to grips with was the fact that he had grass growing like the grass in the front yard. And how beautiful is that, right? And innocent, and yet curious, and deserves the information of why you have grass growing at 13. What else is going on at 13? It's not just the grass, right?
Right.
And so it kind of lends ourselves to that conversation of how do we approach puberty and all of those changes that happen when you have a kiddo who's developmentally perhaps much more delayed, or sees the world in such a different way. And yet we've got to talk to him about these body changes. Can you share with me how you do that?
Yes. And I want to preface by saying he is my first teenager. I used to take care of just younger kiddos, toddlers and elementary school kids. So I was very nervous when he first came. And on top of that, he was female at birth, and he has come out and said he's identified as male. And I definitely respect that. And I think another difficulty he has is due to his ethnic background, his family, his culture being Asian. There's a lot of just hardship he has to deal with that. He hasn't had a talk with his father about it, and his mom has passed a couple years ago. So it's a lot of difficulty, a lot of just different things that he's going through. So I was very nervous, so nervous to talk to him about it. I don't know what, like when he first came, I just kind of went with the flow and I just observed him. And also at first when he came, he was not diagnosed, even though he was in care for a full year already. I was his fourth home. So I decided just take a backseat and just observe. He could talk to me and I let him know. I had just prepare like a welcome book explaining my family and letting him know that we're here whenever you want to talk. So I left a really wide open door to let him come to me. But of course, it took a while. So about a month in, after being in my home, his menstrual cycle started. And he was very upset. He was hiding in the closet crying. And at that time, I also had his younger brother in the home. So I was like, okay, I think this is a time I need to take him away to where it was just me and him. We were in the living room while my husband was hanging out with his younger brother, keeping him occupied. So I didn't turn on all the lights. I had just one tiny light. So at least there's light. We could see each other, but not so bright in your face. And we sat on the couch. I was like, come with me if you don't mind, come sit with me. And he was crying a little bit and I just let him cry. And I asked, what can I help you with? Can you tell me? I want to help you. So I started off as letting him know I want to help. I'm here. So I let him cry a little bit. Then he started going to, because I really didn't know anything about if it has started before, everything. So we kind of got to know each other better. So it wasn't the first time and this and that. So I asked, what do you use? There's many different things he could utilize, tampons, pads, cup. So it was all these uncomfortable questions. I told him, it's okay. I understand it's uncomfortable, but I want to help you. So let me know, what do you use? So we kind of went into what products he would like to use. And I said, I will put it in this bag in the bathroom and, so it's not where everybody could see. So making him understand that it's not a big deal. It's okay. It happens. And he also explained to me that it's difficult because he doesn't feel that it's his body. That's the frustration he has. And I just listened to him and I told him it's okay. I understand. And I appreciate him telling me. And that's how all started. And I was, in a way, feeling so blessed that it happened because I really didn't know how to start. And it really opened him up. He started talking about his previous families, his previous caregivers, and how he never really opened up. He didn't have any other caregiver just sit down listening to him. I'm like, well, I'm glad this worked because he knew that he's my first teenager. I also didn't know what I was doing really, but I'm here to help. And I think he really heard that. He understood that when I sat there and listened. And even though that first conversation did not lead us to great conversation at that moment, but it really opened a door, and we were able to hug it out. And that was the first time we hugged, I have to say. So, because there was not a lot of contact. Just, he wanted to stay far away. It's just, I feel he is in his world where he feels no one understands him. And I heard a lot of, teenager attitude, teenager behaviors, teenager hormones. But what comes down is simply just listening to him and what he needs and what he's comfortable with, and letting him know that if you need to talk, I'm here. If you have questions, don't feel bad, don't feel nervous, and that I'm here for you. I'm here to talk about it, because that's what really all he wanted, is for somebody to listen to him. So
And
that's how it
understand him
started.
without judgment. No
Yes.
judgment.
No judgment.
Right? No judgment. And, you know, I never really thought about it, but you don't feel that you belong in your body. You identify as male. You want, everything about you is male. And then all of a sudden now you have a very female thing happening to you, your menstrual cycle. And just to find a place for that must be so internally conflicting. And for you to be able to just be sensitive enough to keep the lights low, understanding that it's not about a spotlight, and how do you feel? What are you, what are you doing right now? And what can I do to help you? But in a very passionate, calm, endearing way, to say, I get it, right? I'm here for you. And I have to say that, Joyce, you do such a fabulous job with him, because honestly, I didn't know that this was a transgender kiddo. I've always known him as him, just this beautiful human being. He attends our support group, our TAY group, and is just finding his way. And that has a lot to do with how you care for him.
Thank you. Thank you. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to, those next talks, I have a child who is neurodivergent as well in my home. And, I was worried about all the other stuff, peers, whether he was being bullied at school, how he was kind of fitting in. He didn't allow anyone to touch him. And I had so many other areas that it wasn't really on the top of my list to talk to him about how his body was changing, and the fact that, masturbation is something that's kind of normal for kids. And one day I found on the search history of the iPad how to masturbate when you have a penis. And I thought, wow, I felt so bad because I did not preload that conversation. I did not anticipate that he was so curious how it's done, and he didn't have anyone to ever say, hey, that's cool, it's normal. And he had to look it up. And being on the spectrum as well, being neurodivergent, made it even harder, because he's so unfamiliar with himself, being okay with who he is. And I would just encourage caregivers to understand that you might be the only one in their life that can front load this conversation to make sure that they don't have to reach out to the internet, which we all know is an unhealthy place to learn anything. And unfortunately, when he Googled that, he got more than he was asking for. A lot of videos, a lot of inappropriate things came up. And so as a caregiver, we need to be prepared, right? This is coming, right? Whether we want it to or not, these kids are going to change. Puberty is coming.
Yes.
And how we support them, even just going to the grocery store, knowing that your son is eventually going to start his period is so important, right? So taking him to the store and saying, hey, this is going to happen. It's cool. It's nothing to worry about. It doesn't complicate the world. And let's talk about it what products? Okay, let's go down that aisle. Let's look at all the different things that are available because you may have a preference. And being prepared. And instead of having it kind of forced as a crisis, right?
Yes.
And I because now you're trying to catch up, and you're trying to, you said it so well, right? He was in a closet crying because to them, something's wrong with me. I have another child in my home who is neurodivergent. And when she started her period, she thought she was injured.
Right.
She thought, and just so you guys, give me a little credit, right? She was 10. So I wasn't prepared yet to have that conversation because she was young when she started. And she was scared to death. She thought she was hemorrhaging. Yes. And so how can we make sure that we as caregivers are prepared to have these really tough conversations? By practicing, by making sure that the door is open before you need to have it open, by having those quiet moments where you're just talking. Hey, how was your day today? Who's your best friend? What's your favorite music? When, the last time you felt sad, what happened? How can I support you? And start building those bridges before you need the bridge. Do you think that that's, something that helped you? Because not all caregivers would have been able to get your son out of the closet.
I think it's very important to build that bridge, to build that relationship, because you want this kid to trust you. You want this kid to be able to open up to you. And in order to do that, we need to put down the foundation to set the scene, be like, hey, we could talk about this. And this actually reminded me that I think is so important. And I took your class twice on, discussing sex and sexuality and gender identity, and just us as caregivers are comfortable saying the medical terms of body parts. Because, it is uncomfortable. And I think the society has made it like, oh, everybody's giddy when we have to say the word. So being comfortable, I feel, first of all, like ourselves. Because I feel when we're not comfortable with it, we're having a hard time talking about it. They will feel that. They can sense that. And then they will be like, wow, I don't want to talk to you if you're not comfortable talking about it. So definitely having that exposure, learning ourselves, first of all, and knowing what resources are out there. And I think it's really also important to do the research, to know what's out there. Yes, there's a lot of, doctor, nurses, therapists out there, especially for our kiddos, but we should also know the information, the material, the tools, so we can be there, because we are the ones who's with our kiddos day in and day out. So I think that's definitely what's really important for us caregivers to learn and be comfortable. And then
absolutely. And you mentioned the class, right? And there are classes available for caregivers, whether, whatever is in your area, look it up, ask your child welfare, social worker, those folks that you have on your team. I know in LA County, DCFS, we have what's called FKCE. We've talked about this on a podcast before. Look it up and see what classes are available for you, because there are very specific classes that deal with this subject. And again, I wasn't born saying penis and vagina. I was uncomfortable too. But you get to the point where you just realize it's just another body part. It's just like an elbow or a nose. It's not anything. There's nothing shameful about it. And if we can get to the place where we just feel very comfortable in our own skin, then when we go to have these conversations, especially with kids who are neurodivergent, because they're going to take the cues from us. They already have social issues. They already have kind of a fear sometimes of the world, or no boundaries, right? Everybody's their friend. So it can go either way. Now you've got somebody who's supposed to be your primary person, right? That caregiver. And if they can't even talk about it, where do they go?
Right.
They will
Exactly.
literally be forced to go online.
Yes. And I think that's why our kiddos, neurodivergent or neurotypical, they feel more comfortable with going online because they're like, I could just look at this up. I don't have anybody to maybe make fun of me or laugh at me because I have this question. So we need to open that door to let these kiddo know, no, we're here. We're here for you. And I even told my kiddo, we can look it up together. So
Oh, I love that.
yeah, because
No,
I think
I
it's
love
important.
that. Yeah.
There's good and bad informations on the internet, and we need to know which one is, this is good. This is from some prominent, respectable source versus somebody just wrote something, right?
Or showed something that we don't want to see.
Yes, because my gosh, I was so just shocked how much information they've learned at 13 when he came to my home. And I was like, okay, not that I don't want you to have fun on the internet, but there's just so much you don't need to see yet.
Well, and they're so vulnerable, right? I mean, they,
so trusting.
Yes, and those social skills that sometimes they lack.
Right.
If some cool person at school decides to become a predator and find prey, who would you go to? You're going to go to the most defenseless person because you want to make it easy. So our kids with a lack of information, a lack of tools to help put that kind of guard up, they will become a victim. And school bathrooms, I don't even want to think about how many children have engaged in, inappropriate activity in the bathrooms at school. And again, if you are a kid, typical kid, and you're horny, who are you going to go after? You're going to go after the kiddo that's going to put up the least resistance.
And that was something actually I didn't really even think about when taking in a teenager. And then also with gender identity, he had issues picking out which bathroom to go to. For us, it's like you go to the bathroom if you need to go to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize, I was not aware until he brought it up that he wasn't utilizing the bathroom because this gender identity, he not yet comfortable, doesn't know where he fit in, where he could go. Mm-hmm. And it was actually creating anxiety for him. So
not to mention a really uncomfortable day when you can't relieve yourself because you simply don't know which door is friendly. What happened with that? Were you able to talk with the school and figure that out, or how did you solve that issue?
So yes, I spoke with the school to see is there any maybe a different bathroom further away, or is there another bathroom, I believe, in the health office so that he could use. Because besides the bathroom, changing for PE was an issue too, which he was very direct when he first came, that it was an issue. So, and I was so happy he was able to tell me. I was like, thank you for telling me. I'm happy to help you figure out a way to resolve this, it's not an issue, because these shouldn't be issues.
How did you resolve it?
I spoke with the PE teacher and say, hey, how can we work this out? I'm not trying to give him special treatment, but this is something that could cause, mental health issues, anxiety, panic attacks. So how can we just alleviate that? So I'm just glad he was able to share with me and just keep opening up about just how he identifies and how, what is his worries and, and culturally. So I was glad that he was able to share that and open up with me, and that I could tell him, like, if it's something I don't know, I'm happy to help you figure it out, because these are just things we can problem solve together, that we can work it out together. I would think that
because you were kind of at the ready when he was able to share with you about the bathroom issue and the PE issue, and because you did something about it, I have to think that helped open that door even more because you were responsive to his needs. So instead of just listening and saying, yeah, well, that's your problem, bathroom, just pick one and go. Instead of really hearing kind of the deeper issue there, the social issue, especially for a child that's neurodivergent, and just the act of picking female versus male is difficult enough with just a neurodivergent child, just understanding, oh, wow, I'm one of them, right? Yes. And I think I'm that one because, of who I am on the outside, but now it's who I am on the inside. So now the confusion there must have just been enormous. And I congratulate you for understanding the depth of that worry and being able to really go to bat for him and advocate for this kiddo. And I'm sure that the relationship that you started with when he first walked in the door with all of those issues is much different than who he is today, simply because he has someone who loves him and someone who cares and someone who goes to bat for him.
Thank you.
We've talked a lot today, and I appreciate it so much. Are there 3 tools, just basic tools, that someone that has a neurodivergent child in their home that you can share so that they have something kind of added to their tool belt?
Yes, definitely. And I know our focus on neurodivergent youth, children. However, I think just being open-minded that these kiddos need help, never assume what they should and shouldn't know, because we don't know what they went through. We don't know what happened in previous homes or with their families and things like that. We should just definitely be open-minded, be ready to listen, be ready to accept, be ready to help. I think that is so important. And also finding out their love language is so important. I know this could be a whole nother topic in an episode, but
it sure could. Language. Whoa, podcast too.
But just understanding their love language, basically meaning what is so meaningful to them, which for my kiddo is spending time listening, talking. And even before I found that out, I felt lucky that I was able to sit down, listen, and talk with him. And he felt heard. He felt that, oh, this person finally is able to listen to me, listen to my needs, or just listen. And is talking to me and not just telling me to go to my room. Right.
Or talking while you're walking away, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, I really care, but follow me into the kitchen while I'm doing dishes or preparing dinner, but really stopping and spending time with the child.
It's so important you brought that up because, like I said, he was not diagnosed at first when he came. So that wasn't on our minds. And so when a teenager walks away while you're talking, you think they're just, they're being defiant. They're giving us attitude. They're just being rude. Rude. Yes. And I definitely, at that moment, the very first time, I was like, how dare he just walk away from me? I'm still talking. Pay attention to me. And as time went on, I realized it wasn't attitude, teenager, hormones. It was actually kind of being, the neurodivergent. He had a task. He had to go and do something in his room or get something. He's on his way there doing that. And that he couldn't quite comprehend the next set of instructions just yet. So just finally seeing that, understanding that also helped me open up how I teach him, how I help him versus, okay, you're a teenager, you're just being rude. So it definitely opened up a whole different world of how I can communicate and help him. And that kind of leads to understanding kind of the right verbiage, right words to use according to their mental age. They could physically be 13, 14, 15-year-old, but mentally, sometimes maybe they're 7, 8, 9-year-old. So being able to speak at their level using words they understand. And sometimes they're not comfortable because my kiddo is not comfortable looking me in the eye or even at my face. So knowing I'm not going to force him, hey, look me in the eye. Are you looking? Are you listening? Knowing that it doesn't work for him. So kind of using the correct verbiage, the correct setting, the right setting. So actually driving him to school is actually our great bonding time. We're not really like staring at each other, not having a stare down. He's sitting in his seat, I'm sitting, I'm driving. So it's great just finding that great environment that works for your kiddo. Because again, not everyone's the same. Not everyone learns the same way, learns the same speed. Not everybody reacts the same with what you're teaching. So just like open mind, finding the right place, finding the right verbiage to help them, to communicate, connect with them, get on their level. Kind of like we learned about, right? Getting low when they're little, so you're on their level. But when they're a teenager, you're finding what's the best way to connect with them, I think. And just observe them, kind of be in tune with what their needs are. Sometimes they really just need us to leave them alone. They really need to, and something they need to vent. They need a hug. We just need to figure out, because there's no right or wrong. We just need to figure out what they need that day, that week, that month.
That moment. Figuring out what they need that moment. Because every moment that we're meeting their needs, we're building a human being, right? Every minute counts. And don't judge yourself as a caregiver, right? Make sure that you give yourself grace, because there's no handbook. There's nothing that says that this is what this child needs. We have to write it as we go.